It is a common practice for people to take advantage of our calmness and trust, especially when they are loved ones. Nevertheless, we must take action at the right time in order to punish them for their actions. It's time to start today's story, but before we do that, let's hit the bell icon and subscribe to our channel. We would really appreciate it. Let's say the name of my ex-wife was Margaret, and she was 31 years old and I was 37 years old. There was a bit of an extraordinary aspect to my life. As a kid, I was always a shy kid, but my mind was sharp and logical at the same time. But no one could have predicted that this kid was going to join our army one day and live the life of a soldier. As part of my military service, I served in both Iraq and Afghanistan on anti-terrorism missions. On one side, it was the view I had of one side of my life, but on the other side, my mother loved me very much and always told me that I should get married, as she knew that I was getting old by the time. However, I did not feel a need for a life partner at that time in my life. As compared to other people, I tend to look at life in a different way than they do. The secret of my success and happiness is that I was a very broad-minded person, and I believe that was one of the factors that made me so happy. I had seen the complicated couple things as example of my married friends, so I was aware how it happened after marriage. Anyway, my mother sometimes argues with me about this perspective, which often results in a heated argument between us. However, she was pointing out that everyone needs someone in their lives. In order for me to meet a girl who was her friend's daughter, once I returned home on leave, my mother sent me to a restaurant where I had to sit down with her. First of all, I agreed to meet with her, but then I made excuse for being unable to meet with her for 2 days. Finally, my mother managed to arrange a meeting between the girl and myself at our home. Unfortunately, I was not informed of this in advance. Whatever the case, she left us alone for a while so that we could talk. I started out with a little bit of nervousness since I did not really have any intentions about it, but once she began talking, I became a fan of the way she spoke. For the first time in my life, in my entire life, I actually liked someone's talk and found it interesting. Then I don't know what happened to me. We talked for 1 hour, and then all of a sudden, it just ended in the blink of an eye. I believe it was all her magic that made it happen. In my experience, she had a very unique way of making me feel. I was asked by my mother about the meeting we had. I told her that it was fantastic, and she agreed with me. I was asked by her again if I liked her or not. I said that I don't know, but I think we should schedule a few more meetings with each other. The fact that I agreed to meet with her made her happy. The nature of her personality appealed to me. However, we did meet a few times and I got to know that maybe she would make a good wife, but I clarified something to her about my job, and I also told her that I had to be available for a long period of time on my duty because I thought that this might be an issue for her. Nevertheless, she was perfectly fine with it and did not mind at all. It is true that she was very happy about my job and was always talking about the beautiful uniforms and the courage of the army members that I served with. In the end, I decided to get married to her after hearing her point of view. I had no idea one day I would like someone and she would become my wife. It was all right to marry her, and I was also sure that she also liked me, so I agreed to marry her as well. I considered it a blessing that I was able to fulfill my mother's wish as well as find a nice girl to spend the rest of my life with. However, we finally got married and started a new chapter of our lives together. As a result of that meeting, I had found my life partner. Our honeymoon was very romantic and we all had a great time. There was no doubt that she was a very good cook. In addition to that, there are also a lot of other things which make me fall in love with her day by day, more and more. One day after my marriage, I had to go back to my duty. For 2 years, our marriage was fine, and then something happened which completely ruined everything in my life. Due to the nature of my job, it was a bit challenging at times. Having said that, I was always worried about her and how she would handle everything in her life. But she was fine with everything in the end and handled everything in a very effective manner. My appreciation for her goes a long way. It's also a fact that my mother was happy with her, as they both had to spend a lot of time together, and therefore they grew close to each other. My heart was filled with joy when I heard about their bond. We always had a very good time whenever I was at home on holidays, and she loved me very much whenever I was there. Regardless of the amount of time that I spent with her, I always tried to make her wishes come true. It was then that my mother was diagnosed with a disease that was the real disaster, as her entire body was paralyzed, and I had no idea what had happened to her. As soon as I received the news, I was not able to go home due to my duty at the time. Throughout the whole process, I was constantly in contact with Margaret to be able to get an update on her health. After a duration of 3 months, my mother passed away, and I have finally been able to get back home on emergency leave. For me, it was a heartbreaking event that I had to endure. In the aftermath of my mother's death, I was suffering from a trauma and was so broken that I could not breathe. The real guilt for me was that her last moments of life that I was not able to remain with her and not even talk to her. This thought was killing me badly at that time. For many nights I was unable to sleep and cried a lot for her, but then Margaret held me and stayed with me throughout the entire hard time. She finally made me feel relaxed by the end of the bad time. It was only her courage that made me appreciate her, because she was the only one to always stay with her and take care of her when I was not there. Having her in my life was a pleasure for me. During the time that I spent at home, I had no idea what was going on. I was completely out of my mind because of that incident, but I was trying to be as stable as possible day by day. After spending 24 days at home, I returned to my duty. I returned to my duties when I was called back to my duty. There was something different about Margaret's personality that I noticed. In other words, she stopped calling me, or whenever I called her, she would always make excuses about being busy or any other excuse that she was making. In the past, she used to call me 2 or 3 times a day, depending on how busy she was. It used to be that she would always ask about my health, but now she only calls me once every 5 or 6 days. There was something strange about it for me. In addition to that, I got busy in an operation and did not call him for 2 weeks. However, I unfortunately got shot in the leg during the attack, but thank God I was at least alive. So I was able to get leave and come back over here for proper treatment. I was fortunate to have the opportunity to visit hometown again after a 3-month period. It took me 5 months to recover from this, and during that time I was admitted to the hospital. All the time I was expecting that she would take care of me, but instead she came to the hospital for 2 or 3 hours and then left to go home. There was also a change in her tone of voice. It was a few days after I came home, after I had been discharged from the hospital, that I noticed there was something going wrong in Margaret's eyes and in her behavior. Whenever I spoke to her, I could sense some kind of nervousness in her expressions. Despite my repeated requests, she did not provide me with any information about anything. When I tried to have intimacy with her one night, she told me that she wasn't in the mood for it. Nevertheless, after a few days, I discovered in Margaret's drawer a file that contained appointments and prescriptions from the gynecologist. In awe, I wondered if that was the matter and why she had not disclosed it to me earlier. Upon searching everything that was written on the file on Google, I was able to find that there was a prescription for the abortion of baby. After getting to know that, I was amazed, and at the same time my heart sank as I learned the information. Suddenly, I called her and asked her where she was at the moment. As I waited for her to come home so that I could ask her about that file, when she came home, I was sitting in front of her and I put the file containing information about her medication. Then I asked her when she would be able to let me know about this, and the face on her face went pale. Then she began to apologize to me. I said to her, "I am your husband, and you should tell me everything about your life. One of the first things you had to tell me about was the pregnancy. Second, I would like to know why you do not want to have children and why you're choosing to abort." As she was stunned, she did not say anything for quite some time. On that particular occasion, I believe that she was expecting me to do something else for her. I can tell by her expressions that she is as if she has been caught in the act. Suddenly, her expressions changed and she started telling me that she did not want to bother me, and also that she did not feel like she was ready to have children right now. I tried to explain to her that kids are blessings and we should be ready to receive them when they are born. Afterwards, she apologized to me and said that she should have discussed that with me before taking such a drastic step. I said it's okay and I am sure you would be a very good mother. There is nothing to worry about, I know that. In my opinion, you and I both have to take care of our kids and ourselves as well. During that time, I was not aware of what game she was playing with me. As a result, she stopped taking the medications that were necessary before the abortion. It was a great feeling to have our first child. Once, after my mother passed away, I had to go to the room of my mother to get some documents pertaining to the house, because I had to do some pre-work in regards to the house ownership after her death. In her cupboard, I found a cell phone that might be she was using. Additionally, I took along my cell phone along with the documents that I was carrying. I wasn't able to open up my cell phone at that time because I was busy with other things. After a few days at night when I was in bed, I checked my cell phone and found that there was a recording of my mother on it. It was quite strange that she did not tell me on the phone if there was something she wanted to tell me. I checked the recordings in which she was talking about the bad habits of Margaret. It was said that Margaret had locked her in her room for many days, so that's why she was recording this video. I was also told that she was hanging out with a guy who was sleeping with her. There was a time when she put them both in the bed together. There was no chance but to tell me, but Margaret tortured her and made her ill by her actions. I was shocked to the core when I watched the video recordings because it took me by surprise, since it wasn't just telling by a story about Margaret's infidelity, but that Margaret was the reason for my mother's death as well. My anger grew as I pondered what had happened. It did not take me long to go into the bedroom and begin beating her up. The crime she committed was in front of me. The reason why she did this to me was something I asked her. As she asked me what she had done, I showed her the video of my mother. I asked her to tell me the fucking truth, and she told me that while I was standing in front of her, she began sharing her bed with a man in my presence. Due to the fact that she felt lonely at the time, as soon as my mother heard about this, they started to worry. I pleaded with her not to tell me about this matter, but when she tried to do so, I shut her in room and took her cell phone away from her, just locked her up for 3 days, and she found her lying on the ground when she opened the door after she had been locked up for 3 days. As soon as the doctor came after the checkup, he revealed that she had been paralyzed. This is what happened as a result of all of this. She said when she found out that I am pregnant, the guy dumped me. I started the abortion procedure and then you came to the home just as I was about to start it. While listening to the news, I cannot help but break into tears due to the loss of my mother. It was the responsibility of that bitch to cause all this. As soon as I called the police, they came over to my house right away. I handed over the evidence of my mother's recording that was recorded in a secret cell phone that my mother kept, and they arrested her. She is now in prison, and she is so upset about what had happened to her that she is crying and would cry for the rest of her life. Afterwards, she would suffer even more pain as a result of it. It was just the beginning.